just joined us, this is Newspaper Review on High Impact Television. We've taken a look at some stories on the Punch newspaper. Right now, we have our guest who joins us via phone call, Dapo Adaramewa, a public affairs and political affairs analyst, to talk about some of the issues on the pages this morning. Good morning, Dapo Adaramewa, and thank you for joining us on the review.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank God it's Friday.
Yes, fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, sure. So, Saturday, which is tomorrow, the 26th of March, is the APC National Convention, which has been stalled for it has been postponed twice now. And we're all excited to see that it would happen tomorrow. Now, as a political affairs analyst, what should we expect, considering the numerous crises rocking the party at this time? What should we expect from the National Convention, which is to hold tomorrow?
I think we should expect the unexpected. I think the party is at a crisis point because the leadership is trying to thrust forward a candidate that the people do not fundamentally agree with. And because they are trying to do it by consensus, they will run into several problems. And I think the law is very clear on what it takes to have a consensus candidate in terms of there being a signature of every other candidate agreeing that this is the candidate that they have chosen. So I feel that they will run into some trouble there. But this is what will prove to us whether APC is a single-purpose vehicle. You see, they say it is easier to lead a revolution when you have a common enemy. And that was what happened. APC was binded together by their desire to pull PDP out of power. But over the years, we've realized that they are running into problems because there doesn't seem to be anything binding them together. They have achieved their initial goal, which is to remove the PDP from power. Now the question is if they have what it takes to still maintain that party unity in light of the fact that their first and most important goal has already been achieved. So it should be a very interesting one, and I will be watching it very closely.
Right. So you talked about the fact that the whole consensus process and all of that is one that will land them into some trouble. Can you shed more light on what this trouble can be so that we can have a proper understanding of what we're talking about here?
Well, the Constitution and the Electoral Act.
Are you there, Mr. Dapo?
Yes, I am.
So how do they resolve? You just mentioned the Constitution. Okay, you still want to say something? Please go on.
No, I was saying that the Electoral Act of 2022 allows for parties to select their leadership either by direct or indirect primaries or by consensus. And the requirement for consensus is that all other applicants for that position have to sign on and agree to the fact that this is now their consensus candidate, right? Yeah. APC has been one that has used consensus in the past, but I believe that their rank and file is agitating for a direct primary so that they can test the popularity of the candidate rather than a candidate imposed onto party members. So I believe in their efforts to do this, they might run into some serious problems. Like I said, it is easier to be unified when you are after one enemy, and which was what happened before. They were committed to removing PDP from power, and that united them. But now I'm hard-pressed to see what exactly is still keeping the APC together. And I believe that their drive for consensus, rather than allowing a democracy flourish among their ranks through direct primaries, will lead to some serious repercussions if care is not taken.
Right. Okay, so still on this issue now, we have a report how the ruling party, which is the APC, has barred political appointees from, being a part of the Saturday's National Convention. And this is just in line with the Electoral Act, Section 84, subsection 12, that is still being contested. Now that these political appointees have been barred, do you think that it would eventually stay in place?
Well, I know that the court in Federal High Court in Umahia has suspended that, declared it unconstitutional, that provision within the Electoral Act. Now, I don't know if the APC, in light of this judgment, will still bar them or will allow them in.
We just got this report this morning that they have, barred them. It says they have barred them from participating in the Saturday's National Convention. That's the APC has barred political appointees.
I believe it will be for the better for Nigeria as a whole. And I think it is the right step for the APC to take, regardless of what the court has said. It is well within their rights to decide how they conduct their own affairs. Although I suspect that later down the line, there will be a few more suits seeking to challenge why the APC has prevented certain people from taking part. But I think it is good because it creates a more level playing field for all political actors. It gives them a fighting chance. So let us hope it works out well. Let's see how it comes along.
All right. Lastly, before we move on to other topics, as Nigerians here, we know that we are all part of the political process, the voting process, and all of that. And every step that has to do with the election is very important to us. So in preparation for tomorrow now, should we be scared or afraid of anything as Nigerians?
I believe there's nothing to fear. I believe, seeing as this is the party in power, they should be able to maintain law and order. So that shouldn't be an issue. I think people shouldn't be afraid. What they should do is be inspired. It's very essential that not only the people vote and have their PVCs, but they actually take part and register with parties and attend party meetings and make their voice heard. Even if you fundamentally disagree with certain parties on most issues, you still have to be part of one political party that you believe in. So I believe every young Nigerian who is registered with the APC should show up at Eagle Square tomorrow and make their voice heard in the political process. That's the opportunity that lays ahead of us, the opportunity for change. This is not the time for fear.
Right. All right, let's move away from that story. It still has to do with the 2023 presidential elections now, but let's talk about zoning. Now, the conversation surrounding zoning has been in the limelight for a while. And just 2 days ago, we had a report how the PDP members were insistent that the 2023 presidency should go to the Southwest. And we are aware that presidential tickets have been picked up by presidential aspirants of this party, and majority are not from the Southwest. Now, in just also this morning, the Southern and Middle Belt leaders have attacked some of the candidates that have shown interest to be presidents under that political party, which is the PDP, saying they disregard zoning. What is your own perspective concerning the issue of zoning and the controversies surrounding it in regards to the forthcoming elections?
I've discussed this issue in the past, and I am a firm Democrat. But I believe that every democracy should be designed to suit the country that it is in, to give it a good chance of survival. Take, for example, the U.S. democratic system is not one man, one vote. It's one man, one vote towards an electoral college who then decides who the president will be. So they're not voting for the president directly. That, by any stretch of the imagination, will be classed as undemocratic, right? In the same way, I think we need to take into account the cultural sensitivities in this country, the fact that we don't seem to share a national identity. And while we make efforts towards building that, it is important that there is representation from all sectors in that key position. So I believe a rotational, as agreed, is probably beneficial for Nigeria at this point. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you. I can hear you.
Yes, I believe that it is very important that we stick to the zoning principles as laid out. It makes it less conducive for agitators for separation to be able to drum up popular support. It becomes clear that Nigeria belongs to all. And so all efforts must be made to ensure that every zone is represented in this key position over time. So I'm not one to subscribe for anything about all these grand speeches about the fact that it doesn't matter what we need is. No, what we need is adequate representation and somebody who has at heart the interest of all Nigerians.
I'm with you.
Yes. Yes. So I'm definitely for the power rotation to come back to the South. And I think for the stability of the country in the long term, it is 100% important that the South gets a chance to be represented in the most important seats in government.
Right. So a major question has been lingering on the minds of some Nigerians, because I had to ask a few persons some questions in regards to this. And one of the things they said was, in a situation where, for instance, the presidency is to go to the southwest or the southeast, and under a political party, majority of the candidates, those that are aspiring to take that position, are not from that particular region. What can be done in a situation like that when we all know that this region deserves to take the slot?
Well, while zoning is not in our constitution, it's not enshrined in law, it is part of the policies of most political parties in Nigeria. Now, if a political party should decide to ignore that and front a candidate that does not respect the zoning principles, I think it is up to every Nigerian to make it clear that we will go for another candidate who represents fairness in this political system. I think even though we might not, and let us not limit ourselves to political parties. If it becomes clear that the two political parties are not respecting certain principles, then let us vote elsewhere. Let us use our vote to express our belief that it is only fair for every region in this country to be represented at the number one seat over time.
Right. Thank you for that. Very quickly, before I wrap it up with you in about 2 minutes, I'd just like us to touch on something. It has to do with the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. I know you talked about it briefly when we were talking about the APC National Convention, but now I'd like to get you a more in-depth analysis. We have a report here that says the Senate has resolved to appeal against ruling on contentious section in Electoral Act. This is in regards to the Section 84, subsection 12, that bars political appointees from participating in primaries, elections, and all of that. And now the Senate have resolved to appeal this ruling. Do you think this appeal will be upheld? And also, what is your perspective of deleting that section from the Electoral Act?
I think it's very important that we have that section preserved. I believe that the court will find that it is not unconstitutional. We're not barring them from taking part in the political process at all. We're simply saying, so long as you are in an offer that offers you an advantage, an unfair advantage over all your competitors, you should not partake. If partaking means so much to any political appointee, then he should be able to step aside so that he can exercise that right. My hope is that the courts uphold that appeal and we see a return to what is a very progressive clause within the Constitution.
All right, we can just hope and see what comes out of that. Thank you so much, Mr. Dapo Adaramewa, for joining us
Thank
on
you.
the review this morning and for sharing your thoughts with us on these issues.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah.
Do have a beautiful weekend.